Hi, welcome back to Reach Extended, a podcast that we use throughout the year to help you stay in touch with Reach and stay connected with one another. As you know, the Reach Gathering is coming up this April, the first full week, Tuesday through Thursday of April. It's not too late to register. We'd love to have you. And today, we're going to be interviewing some of our speakers that are going to be at our main session, and they have some special things to share with you and to relate with you about these things. To help us get going on that, I'm going to introduce you to one of Reach's foundational partners from Perimeter Church, Jay Martin. And Jay is going to then introduce some of our people that are with us today. Jay, are you there, and how are you doing?
Hey, Greg, I'm here. I'm doing really well. I'm really excited about this year's conference, and specifically because of the four men that we have here with us today. So I'm excited about that.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about who's with us today?
Well, we have Chip. Chip is here to my left. I think that's right. Chip is my boss. And he is on the executive leadership team here at Perimeter Church. Brian here sitting right next to me. Brian's been on staff. How long have you been with us, Brian, now?
10 years.
10 years. Brian and I unfortunately don't work together all that much, but dear friends, love Brian, love his heart. His story is quite unique, and I can't wait to just let the Reach family meet him. Not just because of what he does here at Perimeter, but who he is, and that's the same for Chip. Tito and David are really great friends with Brian and Chip. I don't know either one of them very well. Fortunately, I think both of Chip and Brian says I don't really want to know them very well. But their relationship is going to be what I'm excited to share with the Reach family through this podcast, but more importantly, when you get to meet them at Reach. So the four of these guys have a story to tell that is just really, really special, and I can't wait for you to hear it.
So Jay, at Reach, every year we have 3 or 4 or 5 main sessions. Some would call them plenaries, but that's what plenary means, is main session. And the main sessions, we try to communicate at least 2 of our 4 main words that we use: inspiration and also affirmation. And in these main sessions, we know that people are coming, they're often beat up from their ministry, they're maybe underpaid, underappreciated, and so we want to inspire them, and we also want to affirm that this calling of being a sports rec and fitness minister in a church is a very, very high calling. And so the main session speakers and presenters come to us in this vein. These 4 guys came together, and kind of you and some of the foundational partners were saying, we're at a particular place in our country, at least of America, but really throughout the world, where it's kind of divisive and ugly and all of that. And yet you have 4 guys here today, Jay, that have come together and have a special message. You want to help explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm going to do it really simply because that's the best way I understand things. But these guys have a story to tell that's extremely inspirational, and it doesn't matter whether it's a IT conference or whether it's speaking to us, I'll speak for myself, us dumb jocks. It's going to permeate our souls. Their story is just it's a story of friendship. It's a story of love. It's a story of redemption. It's a story of intentionality and humility, and that's really encapsulates the gospel in so many different ways. And I cannot wait to share them with our Reach family, because their story really is what the gospel is about. It's about reconciliation. It's about reconciling us to God, because we didn't have hope, had no way of doing that in and of ourselves. And honestly, we don't have hope of reconciling with our brothers, whether it's because of their skin color or their beliefs, or someone's hurt us desperately, and we just don't have the capacity in ourselves to reconcile. at that level. And so they're going to share a story. Everybody loves great stories, and their story is great. But the great news, it's not about them, and that's why I cannot wait to push them up on stage and push them in front of our folks, because it is really all about Jesus and all about what he's done in their lives, what he continues to do in their lives. Neither of them have an agenda, if you will. They don't have 3 quick steps to reconcile any different area of brokenness. Their story is just a story of humility and what God's done in their lives, and they're just excited to share that, and I cannot wait for them to do that. So, these guys are really, really special people, and it's just going to really bless our gathering this year for sure.
Well, let's jump into that, Jay. And Chip, I'm going to turn to you to start off here. Tell us a little bit about what you might see in our culture in terms of the divisiveness that's out there, and some of what God kind of brought about in your heart with some of these other guys. To get us started on this story.
Sure. Well, let me first just say thanks so much for inviting us to Reach this year. It's a real privilege and honor, and so we're really looking forward to it. We're excited to be with everybody, and I think a lot of that is just to share some of our story. I feel I'm a blessed and privileged man because of my friendship and relationship with these guys. And I've learned so much over really the last 15 years of the gospel, and how the gospel transcends any type separation or division that we or the world tries to set up. That really he has, as his word says in Ephesians 2, right? He's broken down the barrier, the dividing wall. And so we've been able to begin to live that out relationally, and not just working together on initiatives and projects, but really build a deep relationship together. So I'm thankful, I'm excited, and excited really not only for me to share, but for these guys to kind of be able to share their story and our story together.
So, Chip, you guys, do you meet together regularly? Do you minister together? What's your relationship?
Some of the other guys jump in and share.
Who'd like to take that? Tito, David,
I'll
somebody?
take it. This is, one of the things that I love about our relationships with what we call the Four Hermanos. Hermanos is the Spanish for brothers. And is that it is not a program. It is not a strategy. It is just out of love for one another. And we just happen to realize that our relationship, our friendship could be a beacon of light in this community and beyond. And yes, we go to different churches, but we get to serve together in a network of churches called Unite. And we get also the opportunity sometimes to travel together. And we try intentionally to spend as much time as we can together. And we do have one specific time a month. We have lunch together once a month to talk about our lives, about relationships, and about what we would like to see God doing through our relationships.
Excellent. David, do you have anything to add?
We meet too often, I think. I think we're trying to be too friendly, too relational. But, when you're reaching across different ethnic backgrounds and different cultures, let's just say reconciliation doesn't happen by accident. There's no passive way of living the gospel. And even though sometimes we get in uncomfortable conversations and it's not always convenient, we found that there's a lot of fruit that's born out of just being faithful, intentional, and committed to transformation. And so it's been really fruitful, I think. I don't know what the other guys would say, but fruitful in the sense that we get to see and challenge each other to live the gospel and not just have our not just sort of do. I think there's ways that you can sort of cheapen relationships and talk about what's superficial and talk about your success and trying to make yourself look good. We don't always look good in front of each other. There's lots of times where we have to unpack our mess, and so after years of practice with this, it's made me a better leader, a better father and husband, and hopefully a better friend.
Very good. Brian, explain to us a little bit, and then we'll circle back to each of you to answer this question. But tell us a little bit of your background and how you got to where you are today, and some of your thoughts about this group of four that you are.
Well, it goes way back to my childhood, where I grew up in the South and was experienced a lot of racial tension and segregation, and I grew a little bit bitter over the years. One thing, however, that I wanted to add to that is the fact that it wasn't until I got out of the South and ended up in a place called Buffalo, New York, where I played for the Buffalo Bills, where I was exposed to another culture, another race of guys that I hadn't been exposed to in the past. And that forced me into a place of learning how to cope and become a part of another race. Actually, it changed my life. And that was the beginning, and it evolved into where I am today. I eventually ended up in Atlanta when ministry moved me to Georgia, and was pastoring at a church not too far from Perimeter Church, where I am now. And due to the fact that we had a meeting that brought us together to start to try to collaborate, to come together to do some things that could impact the community, and that's when I met Chip. All I wanted from him was then an opportunity to share ministry with him and to collaborate for Kingdom Impact. I wasn't looking for anything deep to happen, but as it turned out, we became good friends, and that wasn't the end either. We basically fell in love with each other. He became my brother, and that wasn't the end either. Reconciliation happened as a result of this whole journey that we've been on over the past 15 years.
Chip, how about your background? Bring us up to date. How did you get where you're at today?
Yeah. I grew up in a non-Christian family in a small town in Illinois, Peoria, Illinois, and honestly in a very kind of white country club atmosphere. And so I grew up more in a privileged background, so to speak. Became a believer when I was 25 after college in the business world. A guy at work kept inviting me to some business Bible studies through him. It was through him and them that really I surrendered, gave my life to Christ. And things changed pretty radically for me in my life. And I will say, though, that it was really, as Brian mentioned, when we came together and we're part of a group that launched this movement called Unite, where relationship for me really began to go to a deeper level of those that were different than me, those that were not the same ethnicity. And so I feel like I've been on this incredible journey over these last 15 years to really be able to see the world through multiple lenses. I say often that as a white young man or as a white man that I don't know what I don't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I've been able to learn through my brothers of another color here and been able to see life in many different perspectives that's helped me learn to love better and understand the gospel in greater ways.
How about you, Tito?
Well, I don't know if you can tell because I have no accent, but I am not from this country. I am not from this country. I'm actually originally from Nicaragua in South America. And I was growing up as a child in the 80s when Nicaragua was in the middle of war, and that was life and all that it entails. If you see in the news today, video from what Venezuela is going through, that was Nicaragua back in the 80s. And that was just my reality. It wasn't good, bad, or ugly. It was just it. And then in the late 90s, I get the opportunity through a friend of mine who started talking to me about the love of Jesus when I come and accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. And 3 months later, in this month is actually my 22nd year living in the United States. I get to come and reunite with my parents here in Atlanta, and immediately I was exposed to a variety of cultures and languages that just blew my mind. And back in Nicaragua, even before I ever knew that I was going to end up living in the United States, I had an affinity for the English language. I always loved English, and during high school, I remember I had no idea what I was saying when I was learning the affirmative sentences, negative sentences. I took it like math, and I loved the language. And I believe now that it was God preparing me for this season in my life, in my last 22 years. And we began doing ministry at apartment complexes to the immigrant community through music. I was reached to the feet of Jesus through worship. So we were doing the same in the streets in Atlanta. And shortly after that, I meet Chip and Brian, and in this movement called Unite, where what we say here is that it is all about relationships. And to me, I thought in the very beginning that these types of relationships amongst different cultures and languages was something that it was the norm in this country, but that couldn't be so far from the truth. But it's been an incredible journey, and I can't wait to continue to share more as we continue in this process through the REACH conference.
David, how about you?
Well, I'm not as nearly as exotic as Tito, but I'm a Korean American kid that was spent my whole life in the South. So there's a lot of Asians on the West Coast and maybe in the Northeast, but I've always sort of lived in sort of the tension of the South, not being white or black or not being part of the majority. So I've kind of grown up around racial tension and recognizing that I'm the other. And even though I grew up in a Korean church, my dad was a pastor, but it started dawning on me sort of in my 20s that we can either choose to stay in our sort of ethnic enclaves, or we can choose to sort of take on the mantle of Christ and sort of say, I'm going to be for all people, and I'm going to try to do that as myself, even though I've never been a part of the majority. So it's been a fun experience, but it's been come with a lot of challenges. So that's kind of where I come from.
Well, we really appreciate each one of you and your willingness to come and spend some significant time with us at the REACH gathering. And let me fill in a couple of blanks here for those of you that have stumbled across this podcast and you're wondering, well, what is this all about? REACH has been now about 5-6 years worth of time where a number of different of the sports ministries around the world have come. And we're trying as best we can to connect with one another for the equipping, the affirmation, the inspiration for people to go back out into their churches around this world and reach them for Jesus. And so we see that there's a lot of how-to stuff in our tracks and our seminars and all of that. But again, you're going to be hearing from these four men in April sharing an inspirational story. And one of the things that we believe as a foundational partners within REACH is that the gospel is communicated as much or more by who we are and what we do than even what we say. And what you're going to see and what you're going to feel, as well as what you're going to hear, is the gospel in action with these four men. Now, they're going to be complemented in a couple of other main sessions. Go back and look at one of our previous podcasts, and we had Magid Fadzi from Egypt, who worked for decades with a local church there that we've helped empower through the years, and that they've helped empower many other churches. And he's going to come and talk to us a little bit about what it's like to live out the gospel and proclaim the gospel in areas of the world that it's highly persecuted sometimes. The gospel is persecuted. And when you're in a definite minority. We also are going to have what we call wrestling at Reach. And this particular year, we're talking about, in that segment, how do we deal with people and how are we dealing with a culture that in many ways is totally antithetical to the gospel? And how do we interact with people that have really divergent views when it comes to the redefinition of gender and human sexuality and these kinds of issues? And we'll have a panel there that'll be helping us to deal with those. Very diverse panel that'll help us figure those things out. And so Reach tries to reach into these areas of life that are often very difficult that these men have given you a taste of. They will also be part of a track that will kind of flow out of where they're going to come through from their main session and help break this down a little bit more. So you'll be able to interact with them on more personal and more reflective ways, even from our main session. And Jay, I want to turn to you at this point. Is there anything you'd like to kind of recap for us, or anything you'd like to say as we kind of come down towards the end of our time together?
Yeah, only that if you can't get it through audio or video, this is really, these guys represent what Reach is all about. You can go to a conference, you can read a book, you can get ideas, and that's important. I know we all need new ideas of how to do programmatic things, how to do them better, more efficiently, more effectively. So I'm not undervaluing that, but so often in programmatic ministry in the church at large, not just sports, recreation, and camping ministry, we put the what before the why. And I think as a result of it, we lose our purpose. We lose the power, because the power is in the gospel. Romans 1:16 says that. It's not just for them, it's for us. We need the gospel as much as those who are lost. As it does its work in us, and it humbles us and breaks us, and we don't walk in shame because of that, and we're more authentic about that. I think the sweet aroma of Christ permeates the rooms, the ministries, the sports fields, the gyms, all that stuff. And I see and feel that and experience that specifically with these two guys. But just the little bit of time I've spent with David and Tito, which is very little, but you can even hear them. You're just going to be encouraged. You're going to be challenged. You're going to be just equipped in a way probably you don't even realize. It's going to go past the mind into the heart to really see the power that we have, really the message that we have, the tool that we have, and it is the gospel. And you're going to see it in a different way than maybe you've ever thought. And the thing I love about sports, and Brian and I know this, Chip knows this, they're both have athletic backgrounds, but we have so many opportunities to meet and greet and touch, rub shoulders with so many different people in the areas of sport and play. And they're going to give us just a story of how the gospel can really permeate those relationships. So I'm just excited. I really am. I'm genuinely excited because they bring the heart of Reach with them. It's not about to-dos and stuff. It's truly about Jesus and the gospel and relationship. So I think that sums it up for me.
And that's great. And so hear from us as foundational partners. Myself and Jay, we are 2 of 7 foundational partners. And Our hope is that what's going to come out of our main session with these four men is that you will go back into your community recognizing that the sports rec and fitness ministry that you are leading or you're part of or you're volunteering at has one of the best opportunities of anything that your church does, anything that happens in your congregation. This has one of the best opportunities to communicate the gospel and how the gospel breaks down barriers and breaks through all these negatives and breaks through all this separation and all these divisions, and it can make a difference in your community beyond your congregation for the kingdom. And that's our hope and dream that this is going to take off from there. And you're going to be able to see and hear from these guys their story. Now, men, I'm looking here at Acts chapter 13. And the four of you, I think, exemplify this very much. And do you know that the very first church outside of Jerusalem had an interracial, intercultural staff? Listen to this. Now there were in the church at Antioch prophets and teachers: Barnabas, Simeon, who was called Niger, Lucius of Cyrene, Manaen, a lifelong friend of Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. Now just think about where those people came from. Turkey, the island of Cyprus, Africa, Italy. These people came from all these different backgrounds. And men, I think what you are doing is very much in line with that church. And you're going to help us figure out how to do it. So now, Reach is coming up. And what we want you to do is go register. All the data is going to come up on the screen for you about how to do that. Know that there are a dozen or so tracks that are out there, meaning youth sport track, adult sport track, fitness tracks, tracks for those that are physically challenged, theology of sports and rec, all kinds of things that will be there for you. There's going to be an exhibitors hall with exhibitors from around the country. Last year we had about 20 countries represented. You're going to meet and greet, and you're going to get connected, you're going to be affirmed, inspired, and you're going to be equipped to go back and do better what you do. So I want you to right now get in touch with Reach and sign up and come and join us. I'm going to turn it back over. Chip and Brian, you guys are there together. Any last words from you at the mainstay computer that you're at?
Just want to say we're really excited to be with everybody, and again are thankful for the opportunity, and I encourage everyone to sign up and be there.
Brian, anything?
We've been on an amazing journey, and the only thing that I can say that would sum this up is the fact that it has been said that the gospel, the Bible, is better portrayed by the life that we live. And so we're living a life of love and reconciliation and togetherness. And so anything that we could portray has to be something that would be a blessing to the greater.
David, how about you? Last words.
Well, nothing better than what Rev just said, but we're excited to be there. I can't wait to meet y'all and can't wait to share our story. We hope it's of a blessing, and we've been blessed, so we just can't wait to share it.
Tito, last words.
I'm really excited, guys. If our story can touch at least one heart, I think it's going to be mission accomplished. And we are just eager and excited to meet everyone and to be able to share with you all next month.
Jay, anything?
They've said it all.
Excellent. Men, again, thank you for taking your time to be with us, not only today, but also a month from now. Do you realize it'll be a month from now that we'll be together in North Carolina at Ridgecrest? Please do work out whatever you need to do to get there. You don't want to miss. This is going to be one of the most special reaches that we've had in all of our history. Because of these men, our other presenters that are coming, it won't be the same without you, however. So do come. Thanks again, men, for taking this time. Goodbye to everybody.